Hello everyone, so we are still on 8-3, so learning about hyperbola, so a few more examples. So today's lesson going to be like you already have the equation and we're going to be trying to find details such as center point, vertices, foci and co-vertices. So let's look at the first one here. So equation is already there, so I have y plus 2 squared over 9, then I have minus it's x minus 5 squared over 49, it's equal to 1. So we have to find vertices, co-vertices, and foci points. So first of all, don't forget h and k. First of all, let's just figure out a few things from the equation itself. So do we know h and k? Because that's the easiest thing I can start off with. H and k is always that goes with x and y in parentheses. H is something that goes with x, k goes with y. So watch out for this. So if I say h, what is that number? Do I need to look at 2 or 5? So h something that goes with x. So it would be this number here. So let me pick a different color. So h would be, remember we take opposite. So this is going to be 5 and k is, here you go. That's the first thing you should do for something like this. Okay, next. Since it's hyperbola, so remember the bottom number. The first one actually would be a. The second one, oh, don't forget square. And what would be the a value? Since it's 9, a would be 3, so we already know this number. On the x-axis, b squared is 49, so b is 7. So that's what I know. So I have to find rest of the things like vertices and co-vertices. So remember, you can either plot it first and then you can actually literally count those many units and figure out the coordinate point. You could do that. But I hope you remember there's another way you could do, which I like the most. Trust me, it's easier. I would make a table like this. I'm just going to write h and k in the middle. So this is h and k. And then first column, let's just have this for vertices. Vertices for transversal axis. This is for conjugate axis, which is going to be co-vertices. And the last one, I'm just going to leave it for foci. Okay, so vertices. So first, I'm just going to start off with h and k. So h and k, 5 and negative 2. 5 and negative 2. Now think about this. If I say vertices, isn't it vertices are the endpoints of the major or the transversal axis? And how do we determine transversal axis? So whichever variable comes first, so that would be your transversal axis. Since y comes in first, so it means we know vertices is going to be on the y-axis, okay? When I say y-axis, it would go along y-axis. So it means y number would change. X stays the same. So how many units you go on the y-axis? It goes by 3 units, top and bottom. So I repeat. So since it's on the y-axis, so y would change, x stays the same. So in order to find the number above this h and k, I would add 3. Let me pick a different color. So in the bottom one, I would subtract 3. And then x number would stay the same. So the top vertices would be at 5 and plus the negative 2 plus 3 would be positive 1. Bottom one, it would be 5 and negative 5. So these two vertices for this hyperbola. Okay, now time to find co-vertices. So how many units you go on the x-axis? So it goes 7 units. Right and left. Now, since it's on the x-axis, now x would change, not the y, right? So what I'm going to do, so 7 added to this x and subtract. If I add, that would be the number on the right side. So 7, 5, 12. Negative 2, that would be co-vertices on the right side, and on the left side it would be negative 2 and negative 2. And the last one, we need to find foci, but first you have to have the c value. How do we find c? So for c square equation, remember if the original is minus, then c square would be plus equation. So it would be a square is 9, b is 49. If you combine these two, this becomes 58, and square root of 58 would be, I would say just pretend 7.6. Okay, now Where do you see foci on? Is it on the transversal axis or is it on conjugate? So it's actually on the transversal axis, which is y-axis. So now the y would change. So I would add 7 to y to get the number above. Oh no, I'm sorry. Transversal axis has 9. My bad. It's 3. It's 3. So it would be 3 here and subtract to actually get the bottom number. So the first one would be, the first foci would be at 5 and, wait a second, what I'm doing? No, that was right. It's 7.6. My bad. My mistake. It's 7. Yeah, that's right. So it's 7.6 here and subtract 7.6 because we are finding foci. So if I actually subtract, add, it would be 5 and it would be 5.6, and 1 under, it would be, so these are the points. Here you go. So that's how we deal with these. So that's my first example, and that's how we find details. So you'll be asked to find vertices, co-vertices, and foci. Again, you could do either or. Graphing could be one way, or making this table would be another way. Okay, but I always prefer table over graphing. Another example. Let's say I have an equation that looks like this. 4x to the sec, oh my bad. It's 4x to the second minus 3y to the second, and it's equal to 12. Okay. First of all, this equation doesn't look like normal or standard, right? How would you make it into standard form? So try recalling, isn't it? And the number on the right side has to be 1. How would you make it 1? If I divide it by the same number. But don't forget, since it's an equation, you actually have to divide the entire equation by that. So simplify. So if I simplify, 4 divided by 12, so it would be x squared over 3. Second one, y squared over 4, and it's equal to 1. Now, once I have this, once this equation becomes normal looking equation, now we need to find h and k and rest of the details. What's h and k? H and k, 0 and 0. Now, you can make a table, you could do that, but since it's h and k this time, it's just going to be 0 plus and minus number, or plus and minus number, comma 0. It's easier. So we need to make this table if h and k is different than 0, 0, okay? Anyways, it's totally up to you if you want to do it. First of all, which one is my transversal axis? So transversal axis is x. So it means if I have to find vertices, so the number would come first because now you're going along x-axis, right? So x would change, y would stay the same. So y would still be 0. So on the x-axis, we travel, okay, so this is 3. So I would take square root of 3, which is 1.73. So I would say plus and minus 1.73, comma 0. So these are vertices of this hyperbola. How about co-vertices or conjugate axis? So conjugate axis is y-axis, and we have 4 units on that, so it means it would be 2. The b value would be 2. So since it's on the y-axis, y would change, so 0 would stay the same. So on the y-axis, it would go by 2 units top and bottom, so that would be co-vertices. And lastly, foci. So first thing, we have to find the foci number, which is a square, which is 3. So c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. So it's 3 plus 4. So c squared is equal to 7. C is equal to square root of 7. So square root of 7 is 2.65. Okay, anyways, now let's find the foci. And foci is always on the transversal axis. So since the transversal axis is x, so it would be plus and minus 2.65, comma 0. And yeah, this is pretty much all. So if you have any question, comment.